stranger to Mental Health Uncorked. He has bragging rights out here in these streets. Ticaro like came blazing through last year, broke all our records for Mental Health Uncorked, like broke our YouTube records, broke our streaming records. Like he's over here being all bashful. I see you being humble.
Well, I do appreciate, if I'm gonna step out, I guess I got to step out as big as possible, right? So I do appreciate that.
Step out. But today he's come in to talk about resetting your default settings, right? So without further ado, we are here to hear from Ticaro. Heath.
Man. Well, thank you, ladies, again for allowing me to jump on your platform. And yeah, I guess diving straight into it. So speaking a little bit about resetting your default settings. So the last time we spoke, I talked about how I chose like an alternative style of therapy or counseling in more of a combative style, really seeking someone who could speak with me on a regular basis and really go back and forth with me in a more of a gladiator style instead of your contemporary soft, how do you feel? How does it make you feel? What can we do from here type perspective? And a lot of questions that have been asked of me is like, why? Like, who wants to sit around and argue all day? Who wants to sit around and be yelled at, cussed at, fussed at, going back and forth? So for me, resetting your default settings was probably one of my biggest things that I needed to focus on. I think we all jump into wanting to do therapy or wanting to get counseling, wanting to get guidance in some way. And we do those things looking to make a change. But we often look for that immediate change. And then once we're there, we're jumping out and trying to see, okay, I put in the work for 2 weeks. Let's see, who notices and who don't. And that was a problem I had. I would look at things that I felt like I needed to change. And then I realized that I was trying to make quick fixes and quick changes, and it was ultimately for other people. So when it wouldn't be noticed or when it wouldn't work like I wanted it to work, I would immediately default back to being who I was that brought me into therapy, whether that's being toxic, whether that's being someone who self-inflicts damage upon myself or whatever it may be. So I really had to find someone who would hold me accountable to a higher level, who would be able to help me change from the roots and not just pruning as I grow, right? So the first thing that I had to do with that was realizing again that I needed to work on changing for myself, like really sit back and understand my own characteristics and see how I wanted to present myself to people, not just understanding that I did certain things in relationships or I made certain decisions in life and putting things in place not to make those decisions anymore, but to innately, without thinking, make those choices because it's who I am. I found myself in many positions like I'll make a bad decision and then that'll damage a relationship with a person and I'll do everything to fix it, but not realizing that I'm trying to fix it for that situation instead of fixing it for myself. And I think something that's difficult for myself, and it might resonate to other people, not just men, is that we look for value and change through other people, through what other people see, not realizing that we damage relationships and often are never looked at in the same light again, even if we do change. And that makes consistent work on changing difficult. We have somebody that we care about, you hurt them, you go to make a change and you feel like you change, but you go back to that person and you realize that they still look at you as the person that hurt them. You can't take that away. And now we're back to being the person that hurt them because you feel like the work that you put in wasn't worth it, or it didn't give you the result that you wanted. And I found that being a repetition in my life, whether it was work, relationships, people, family, whatever it may be. And so with that, it's taking things and breaking things down to its smallest form. That way you can fight and combat them, right? So the first thing that I did was found something that I could take with me every day, just a simple saying that allowed me to consistently focus. And that was do something you've never done to get somewhere you never been. And that means a lot to me because we all walk around feeling like we know ourselves. We know what we need to fix. We know where we need to be. We know that, but we don't realize that we've been in the same rut for 20, 30, 40 years. You know, you've been doing these same things, right? Like the definition of insanity, right? You're doing those same things over and over again and not getting somewhere that you want to be. So doing something that you've never done to get somewhere you've never been. Like I've never truly distanced myself from people. I've never truly closed doors in situations, relationships with people, with things that I went through. I've never truly focused in on putting myself first as a person in comparison to finding joy and excitement from being with people or doing things for people. And so that had to become my focus. And I had to have somebody that wasn't a yes man, somebody that wasn't soft, somebody that wasn't a pushover, someone who was gonna be real with me at all times and not just the soft real, right? Like you can find somebody who's tell you like, no, don't do that. And any pushback is gonna be none. They'll throw their hands up and say, oh, I told them not to do it. Like, no, I needed somebody who's gonna actually, if I swing, they swing back. We fight, get back up and start back talking. Like I needed that because the toughest thing to do is to change that habit that you've had over 10, 20, 30 years because it's what you know. It's what's gotten you as far as you've gotten. And if you fooled yourself into believing that where you are at in life is a successful point, but you won't change, doesn't make any sense. But you know these things because your routine has been the same. You know, you get into an argument, and every time you get into an argument, you walk away. And you tell yourself that's the best thing that happens, but you realize you don't have any friends. Or every time someone gives you constructive criticism, you get pissed off. And you say, well, I know myself. But then you realize you never grow in life. You never get another step in life. Like you show up for work late every day and say, because they don't say nothing to me, it ain't nothing wrong. But you never get that promotion. But it's somebody else's fault. Like you look at those things that are very simple things in life. It's what you've done so many times over and over again. And yet you have to then revamp and take all that away. It's a scary situation for most people. It's a scary situation. It's a difficult thing for most people because most people can't look at themselves in the mirror. Most people can't be alone with themselves. Most people can't look at themselves and say, not that I need to change. Anybody can say that I need to change, but most people can't look at themselves and take what someone else has said and say, well, maybe I am that. Like if 2 or 3 people in the room say that you're this type of way, and they're 2 or 3 different type of people, 2 or 3 people that look at things from different perspectives, you're probably that way. Like, and it's not a bad thing, especially when you have people around you who are willing to identify those things for you. But a part of that is taking the time to reflect. And you grow by identifying the things that really need to be done, like those buckets in life that you really need to feel. Like we're so comfortable at grading ourselves and things and that, okay, yeah, I communicate well. I'm at least a B in communication. I'm gonna work on that so I can get A. Well, you're not doing anything with that F in listening that you're doing. Like being a better person in life, just a better human being, is about working on your own personal law of averages. Like, and with those things come the things that we all ultimately seek, the success and that happiness. For myself personally, through the journey that I've been on, I've found that my situational happiness isn't as often as it used to be. But my overall happiness, me as a person, I am much happier than I've been in years because my structure is there now. Now, I found that I use situational happiness to get by tough situations in life. And we think because we make a few dollars and we'll go party to not think about it, or we go buy ourselves something nice, or we do these small things for ourselves and they look like celebratory moments, but you're never fixing real issues. Now you're a sad person. Now you're a sad person with a $200,000 house, or you're a sad person with a $50,000 car. You know, like you're just a sad person with something, or a sad person that have done something. But it's difficult because it requires resetting and being alone and taking criticism without being combative. And that's something that I want to speak on too, about if anybody ever wanted to go into this journey of finding somebody who would be combative with them and really hold them to a different level of accountability. Sometimes you got to shut the hell up. And that's extremely tough when you, like myself, I deflect. I know how to weasel my way out of most situations. And to just shut up and take it and listen to somebody is the hardest thing in the world to do. But when you learn to do that, you then learn that you can create a proper team around you. So it took months for me to actually just sit back and listen to people, listen to what my guy was telling me, like, hey, this is what I'm consistently seeing. It's what you're paying for me to see for you and tell you, and then make those changes. But then it also allowed me to realize that a lot of my changes that needed to be made was the people that were around me. And so when I really started to see my success within this type of counseling, was when I started to change people's roles in my life. And so I did that by, I like to tell people to do this exercise. So you got people in your life that you hang around with all the time. If you take away their name, if you take away their title to you, what they mean to you, you strip every bit of emotion and anything about it, and you just put what that person is, the characteristics that they have and what they bring, and you just tell that person A, and the second person B, and the second person C, and you start to see where that fits into you, you'll start dismissing people around you that you never thought was stunting your growth. And it's not anything personal, but if you want to get somewhere that you want to go, that you've never been, you got to do something you've never done. And that means you might can't talk to your mom, brothers, sisters every day. Sometimes that might have to be cut back. Sometimes that best friend that's been there forever isn't helping you grow as far as you thought you were, because people have to grow with you. And if you're cutting out people who aren't growing with you, it doesn't mean that they are out of your life. You just can't help me in this part. Like when it's time for me to party, then maybe we can do that. Or when it's time for me to, this person might be really good at finances. You might not be very good at finances. You break that down and you see that, okay, when it's time for my financial growth, this person's on the team. But when it's time for my spiritual growth, I gotta let him stay on the bench, like, because that's not really helping me. But people are afraid of losing people. We all are. It's why we hurt so bad when we do something stupid in a relationship. You don't want to hurt somebody and lose them for nothing. It's why we hurt so bad when we lose our loved ones, in this life of death, right? Like, you don't want to lose people naturally by life, but you also can't have everything and take it all with you. You want to be somewhere, you want to put yourself in a light that you feel like when you walk out the door in the morning, that it's a person that it doesn't matter if someone enjoys you or not, it's the exact person you want someone to see. that's going to require those changes. And for me, those changes would never come by having people who were going to be on my side saying that I wasn't a problem. It would never come by paying somebody every month to tell me, well, what if we just try this? Like, no, I had to have someone beside me. I had to have a team created with me. I had to have a therapist in front of me that's saying, it was the stupidest shit I ever heard in my life. Like, I had to have it, because otherwise you're gonna take most things, especially when you're being attacked, you're gonna take most things like you want to hear. Like, you get somebody who's gonna talk you in circles and baby cake, you know, you're gonna take it how you want to hear. Oh, that's not what I heard. I heard him say that he's heard some things in life and that's not the smart. No, that it was the stupidest thing you ever said in life. You should never do that. If you don't have somebody else, someone, it doesn't even have to be a therapist. If you don't have someone in your life that's willing to do that, you gotta find it. I'm not even telling everybody to do what I do, because it is a mental toll on the person who, on my therapist and for me. It is a mental toll to be combative. But I also have family members. I have people who are close to me that's ready to throw hands with me anytime that it's time to. Because at the end of the day, you have to surround yourself the same way you look for a therapist or a counselor. The goal is your goal. The goal isn't the goal for people who are with you. The goal is your goal. And you have to find people who want your goal for you as much as you want it. And if you can't surround yourself with those people, you got to start over. And you might not need combative therapy to do that, but you got to have somebody who seeks out your goals for you as much as you're willing to put into work to do it. Because otherwise, when you're ready to slip, when you're ready to make the wrong decisions, and you're not strong enough to turn away from it, they're gonna let you turn away from it. Like, we don't get anywhere in life alone. That's the biggest thing that I've learned through all of this. You get nowhere alone. It takes a team, whether it's your wife, whether it's your mother, whether it's something, you have to have a team surrounded by you to be successful, because otherwise you're fighting the good fight alone and you will be walking in circles in the woods and never get anywhere. But once you find people who get excited for you, find people in your life, and it's a simple test. Do something, achieve a goal that you wanted for so long, and see how many people are more excited about you doing it than you were actually accomplishing it. Like, I recently bought a vehicle. First vehicle I bought, God, who knows when, right? And it was something that I sought out help for. I had people understanding it's what I wanted. I had people helping me find it, people helping me build to get it. And when I got it, I almost couldn't celebrate, because those people around me were so excited that I did it, that I accomplished it. It was as if they had accomplished it. And I never knew what it meant to be on the other side, because I've always enjoyed getting the joy out of watching people enjoy things. I always loved giving gifts. I always loved helping people. I've cried at each one of my friends' weddings. I've enjoyed being in moments because I felt like they were mine, because I was so happy for someone else. But I've never been on the other end of that until recently. And it made me feel the one thing that I think everybody wants to feel, like I wasn't crazy for putting myself first in a situation. Like, I wasn't crazy for putting aside people and the things that I typically do, the help that I normally give, the choices that I wasn't crazy for doing that. And watching people celebrate me was the most selfless thing you'd ever feel, because you had a group around you that made it understood that they were there for you, for your goal. And it makes the difficulty of getting poked all the time by somebody who's combative with you, trying to get the best out of you every single day, and you turning over sleepless nights, you crying by yourself, you upset with yourself for making a right choice in a situation, you worrying yourself to death, wondering what the effect of you doing something was going to have on someone else. Like all of those grunts and pains and times that you went through, it made it worth it to be able to see that everything that you put into place for so long has now come to fruition, and it's worth it because everything that you've been doing has been good, but everything that you've accomplished now is great. And that's what it's all about. So the last thing I want to leave you guys with is a quote that I heard that meant a lot to me, meant a lot to me. And it was, what is the difference between an amateur and a professional? An amateur is a person that'll practice until he gets it right. A professional is a person who practices until he can't get it wrong. And for me, that shows that even as a professional, you should never stop practicing because you'll never not get it wrong. But you can always continue to strive for better and better, no matter how hard it gets, no matter how robotic it has to get for you. But a professional is always going to do something the way that he done it the right way every single time. And the percentages are in your favor at that point. So that's it for me. Sorry for talking you guys' head off. But again, ladies, I appreciate the platform, and we'll keep this thing rolling.
Ah,